When I first went to visit Nuneaton way back in, October, one of the best clips we recorded all day was a clip of me being sacked. And then I thought, this is brilliant, but I'm probably never going to get to use it, because surely I'm not going to get sacked. The one silver lining on how things are going right now is I might get to show you that clip. Hello and welcome to part 42 of Backing the Boro. I'm Kevin. Coming up on today's episode, we're away against Halifax and FC United in the Conference National. And we're probably going to lose them both. Since you were last with me, look at this. We had a nice little run of 1-0s. Remember on the last episode where we played around with the tactic, we did our 4-4-2, and then we tried the 4-3-1-2, and they both worked, in so much as we got boring 1-0 wins. And that, of course, because you know me, you know how my mind works, that led to me spending, the next 7-8 games persisting with the 4-3-1-2, because surely that's the answer. We gave it 8 games. It is not the answer. We're back to the 4-4-2 today for the first time since the first game of the last episode, and we are in a fairly desperate situation. The one silver lining is that Edwin Scott scored in the last 2 games, so he might just be back. But it doesn't really matter if he's back in a team that is in a relegation fight. I know we're still officially 11 points clear of the relegation zone, but I don't like being down in 17th place. I don't like being closer to relegation than the playoffs. It feels like we're not making the progress we need to be making. We need to show some signs of life in today's episode, or else we're going to have another one of those clear out summers, like when we binned off Chambers and Nicholson and all the other the big guys who we'd built a team around and we thought they were the future, they were going to come with us through the leagues. Well, I now feel like that about the likes of Scott and Boro and Laskowski. Perhaps they're not the answer, though. Perhaps we need to bin them all off and just start again. Hopefully I'll be feeling much more positive by the end of the episode. So we're going with Can in goal, a back four of Anderson, Laskowski, Azia Konu, and Moore, with Borrell, Hurd, Ball and Hartley in midfield, and then Scott and Mason up front. Omar's injured. Phyllis Kirk's injured. So we don't have any other strikers, so that's the combination we have to use. I also experimented with the 4-3-1-2 of doing an advance forward or poacher with Scott on target man attack, so 2 attacking strikers. I've always been told don't do 2 attacking strikers, they get isolated. And it wasn't until we switched him back to being a target man on support that he then scored those last couple of goals. So I think I'll go back to my original thinking of we don't do 2 strikers both on attack. I see people do it all the time and it seems to work for them. It's never really worked for me. So we're going full on back to basics. We're back to counter-attacking and structured because it's what got us where we are now. I know it got a little bit boring and it was less effective, but I'd take 2 1-0s again like we had yesterday or the day before, or whenever the last episode was. I don't even remember. What's the new schedule? Nobody knows. But I'd take that because the all that time of losing all those games was proper miserable. Right, Scott crossed to Mason and didn't really make anything of it, but at least we had a bit of an attack. And there we go. Here's another one. Mason's still far forward. Surely he's offside, but I don't think he is. I think that's been given. Who on earth was playing him onside there? Who cares? It could have just been that the linesman was a little bit slow. Let's watch it from this angle, see if we can see who's playing him on. So Anderson does brilliantly, and it's their left back. The left back is playing him on, and he's nowhere near him, so no help at all. And we've switched Anderson back to being a wing-back. He's been playing as full-back all season, and I had to publicly criticise his form because he'd been playing so poorly. And I realised it's because when he was good, we were playing him as a wing-back on defend in a flat-back 4. So he's back to that today, and he's set up a goal. So clearly, perhaps that was the answer. Perhaps that's all we needed. We just needed our captain to be playing in his preferred position. Because remember, Anderson was one of our top players. He was one of the first batch of this new generation of players we've built this team around. Anderson was probably the first to arrive out of all of these. Maybe apart from Stone. But Stone's not even in the team today because he's injured. So it's good to have him back. Right. Ball forward to nobody. I still think that midfield is a problem. Ball and Hurd are not a midfield 2. And the problem is they're both better than all our other midfielders. But I think I've fallen into the whole Lampard and Gerrard playing together for England trap. They might be our 2 best midfielders, but a good midfield they do not make. I need Tom Elliott in there with one of them to offer something a little bit different, get some tackles in and do the grunt work, while one of them can then dance around and create stuff going forward. Because at the moment, playing them together, it stops either of them being fully effective because they're both trying to cover for each other and they're not very good at it. So they're both spending all their time not being very good at covering for each other when they could be getting a bit further forward. So let's tell him to get a bit further forward. See, he doesn't even want to. Oh, I don't know. Elliot, though, we'll put him in there alongside Ball. And in fact, should we do a double change? We'll bring Cowans on. Can we swap those two over? We've probably gone to the other extreme now. We've got two more defensive-minded midfielders in there now. We don't need to change the fullbacks. It's all the only other players we've got fit are fullbacks, so we'll probably just leave them as they are. Do we switch back to a defensive mentality? Oh, I hate being 1-0 up. It's the worst. Right, Mason is in. If he scores, we do go defensive. Because at 2-0, I think we can probably hold on. We do have a good defence. It's weird. This Nuneaton team, that I've managed them for longer than I've ever managed anyone else on YouTube at this point, I think. They still don't feel like a Kev squad. Because we're strong at the back. And not creating enough chances. After 5 years. I don't know how this has happened. I think it's just working on a really limited budget. Right, let's go defensive and hope we don't cause ourselves too many problems. Elliot to Mason. Can he grab a hat-trick? Oh, he's that close. A fingertip save away from having a hat-trick. And that would be exactly what we needed to get ourselves sorted out again. Why are we so much fitter than the opposition? Halifax are all down to 50 and 60% conditioning. We're on like 70s and 80s. Has my policy of resting players after games and being a full... I don't know, Halifax full-time it must be. Did we just score again? Was that an own goal? I guess we don't need to be defensive now. We'll change back to counter again. There's no point inviting them onto us too much. If we're 3-0 up, we're absolutely thumping them. And I don't think there's even any pressure here. Mason's not even chasing him down. Their keeper's not even looking. That is a terrible, terrible own goal to concede. Right. I'm now thinking in terms of get Bobby Joe Worrell-Bristow on at right back, give him a little bit more game time. Although not if we concede here. We don't want to mess around too much. So let's just wait for this highlight to end. And as long as we don't concede, we're going to bring him on at right back. And we haven't given away a penalty. Somehow we slide in and get the free kick. It must have been a dive. Right, Worrell-Bristow. Worrell-Bristow on at right back. Just to see out the game, get a little bit more game experience, and this has been exactly what we wanted. Why have we not been doing the 4-4-2 all along? Whose idea was it to change that? I can hear the "I told you so's" coming through the comments as I speak, and they're not welcome. Go on, feel free. Tell me I told you so. Tell me why I shouldn't have fiddled. I know I shouldn't have fiddled, but it's so hard not to fiddle when you don't feel like you're making any progress. You finish the season strongly, you have a decent summer of transfers, you start the new season, you're almost halfway through, and it just feels like you've taken a step back from the season before. You can't make any more transfers because you've maxed out your budget, and what do? The only thing you can do in that situation is change the tactic. I realise the thing I should do is just wait it out. If I've got better players in a tactic that's already proven to work, then eventually it will come good. I just wasn't patient enough. Fingers crossed we win again in a minute. Just the one change for the FC United game, then Stone comes back in at the back because he's not... I think he was suspended for the last game rather than injured because he seems pretty fit now. We've also gone to a defensive mentality because my assistant manager told me it would be a good idea. We're away from home against a team third place in the division. We did it quite regularly last season in these big away games. And it worked, so we'll try it again. It really, really pains me to go into a game super defensive, but at the same time, if we were managed to do the unthinkable and pull off another win, then we're sort of secretly back into the playoff hunt again after that terrible run of form. So I don't think that's likely to happen. We probably are going to lose today, but a draw is a great result if we can go and play for a draw with our good defence. Mason really wants to keep his space in the team. He hasn't been playing regularly for probably nearly a year at this point. He was a regular for the first half of last season, but when Omar and Philliskirk both turned up, he took a bit of a back seat. He's found his way back in through a combination of poor form and injuries, and he absolutely wants to be part of this team. He's got himself an assist, and it's Boro who puts us 1-0 up after 13 minutes. We're playing defensive. I don't really know why Steve Borrell's that far forward, but I don't care, because we're 1-0 up against FC United, and suddenly everything's going well again. It's a remarkable thing. Borrell's just scored a header as well. He's supposed to be a winger, who we're currently training to be a central midfielder, because he stayed in the team all through the 4-3-1-2 experiment. And I think it would be good for him to have playing in central midfield as another string to his bow, because I'm probably not going to play 4-4-2 forever. I'd love to get away from it and get into something a little narrower, a little bit more Kev, but it's not working every time we try it. But we'll keep trying it every now and again, and I want to keep Boro in the team when we do. I don't like 4-4-2. I just feel dirty playing 4-4-2 all the time. And I don't want to do a 4-2-3-1 because I don't like one striker formations. That's the same reason I don't do a 4-3-3, 4-5-1, anything like that. I don't like one striker. I've never really been able to get one striker to work unless the one striker was exceptional. I think the only example of it ever really working out... No, there's two examples. Both FM18, probably. I never got it working at all last year, from what I remember. But João Roberto for Man City on Non-League to Legend FM16, he worked, but he did have 3 world-class players behind him. And then I did it again with Milan on the Milan mission with Dybala up front. But other than that, has there ever been another example of me getting a one striker to work? I mean, and to be fair, they were 2 world-class strikers, so they were going to work. Who knows? They might have been even better in a 4-4-2. Can't imagine going to AC Milan and playing 4-4-2. You have to be fancy when you go to the fancy clubs. Right. Starting to think in terms of how do we hold on? Do we stay on defensive? Do we drop... presumably, if we stay 1-0, do we drop back to contain at some point? Or is that taking it a little bit too far? And if we do, at what point do we? They are... I mean, they're not exactly bombarding us with efforts. We've had the same amount of shots as them. Theirs have been a little bit more accurate, but then we scored. They didn't, so nah. But... I didn't expect to be in this position in this game. Right, let's get Tom Elliott on. He's played right midfield quite a lot for us this season. We're getting to the point now, 5 or 6 seasons in, where Tom Elliott has played just about everywhere in our team. He is a hero. Asia Konu can come on as well. And we'll just leave it there for now. But Tom Elliott, I think it's fair to say at this point he is the hero of the save. He's so versatile, and that's so important at this level, because we can bring him on at right back, we can bring him on in midfield. He played a full season as a right wing back. He's played as a holding midfielder for us when we messed around with a diamond. He's played a lot of time in midfield. I think we've even used him on the right hand side of a back 3 once or twice. Right. This is a big risk. This isn't really a Kev move. But I'm going to take off Scott, bring on Cowans and stick him there. After all that talk about not liking one striker systems, certainly not having a poacher up front on his own. That's crazy talk. But we're going to go contain. And we're just going to try and win the football match. We've got 7 minutes to just get men behind the ball and... hopefully not give them a goal on a plate. Right, Mason. Just keep hold of it, lad. Elliot, back out to Mason. And we've presumably got no one in the middle. Borrell's there again, trying to score another header. He's already had one. If he'd have scored a second header in a game, we're immediately retraining him to be a target man, no matter what he's supposed to be. Because anyone who can score 2 headers, they're a striker in Kev's world. Oh, here comes the equaliser. Oh, now we can't change the formation back because we don't have another striker around. And it's all going to go wrong. We're going to lose the match. We'll go to defensive again. I don't know what to do here. Do we... what is there to do here, really? I wonder if we do... this. Just because Cowans wasn't comfortable at all playing where we were asking him to play. So maybe if we swap those two over, he can do that. He can do that. And then we can put him back to that. Kev does tactics, everybody. If we grab a winner here, I'm going to do a lap of honour. You're going to have to stick around to just watch me do a lap of my garage to celebrate the goal. Borrell's running the wrong way, I think, but finds Elliott eventually. We've got 6 seconds if we want the lap of honour. Ball back to Cowans. Borrell again. Mason is in the middle. Luckily for us all, I don't have to get out of my chair, which is exactly how I like it. An undefeated episode, we can't really argue with that. I think we're starting to show some signs of life again. It's a shame it's taken us a full half a season to get to the point where we're showing those signs of life, but we do now find ourselves safely tucked away in mid-table. We're 12 points away from the playoffs. It isn't going to happen, but we need to start building a proper team for next year and maybe shipping out some of these more expensive players who aren't... Is Cedwyn Scott worth $3,000 a week? Probably not. If you've enjoyed that, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos. Thank you very much for watching.